The crew and I have been playing Atlas for the past few months, and during that time, we've come up with the same few talking points when it comes to what we wish we could see in Atlas when it releases as a full game. We already think Atlas is a great game in its early access form. If you played it earlier in the year, I highly suggest you go back and take another look at it because a lot has changed and a lot has been fixed and improved. This video is going to go over 5 points that I think would turn Atlas from a good game into a great game upon its final release. And yes, of course, fixing bugs is the most important part to keeping the game running smoothly and people playing it so that it can be tested. But beyond that, I just wanted to share some ideas that my community and I have had as we've played through Atlas. Keep in mind all of these ideas will be largely related to PvE because that is what I have played the most, but if you are a PvP player and you feel like making a video on changes or things you'd like added to your PvP play on Atlas, I'd be really curious to see what you all come up with. A couple of these ideas are going to piggyback on what the developers showed us in the live stream earlier this summer, where they talked about new types of ships and also changing the ratios of time people are spending on land versus sea, so keep that in mind as well. I'm going to go ahead and get into my number one most wanted feature to see when Atlas releases as a full game, which is going to be a complete rework of the boss fights and PvE islands. And of course, when I say PvE island, I mean a Power Stone island, where you go to take on a boss and then after that you head to a cave to pick up a Power Stone or see the Fountain of Youth if that's where it happens to be. One of my biggest problems with these Power Stone Islands is the sheer amount of creatures that are stuck on them, as well as the size of the island itself. I think that there's no rhyme or reason to how you're supposed to approach these islands. You're just supposed to try and stay alive so that you can get where you need to go. Once you successfully make your way through the path of creatures, you will find one of the bosses that Atlas has given us to take on. You're pretty much issuing yourself your own death warrant if you just try and stand in front of it and tank it, or try and have the little heal packs working, because that just isn't a viable option right now. So most people are resorting to dragging the bosses to the water and then killing them from ships, which I don't really think is the way that things should go. It's not that fun. There's really no method to the madness with these bosses if you're attempting them on land. If you can bring them to your ship, there is a way to set up your ship with ballistas and safe places to hide while you take on these creatures. I think that the level design needs to be a little bit more controlled instead of just having things spawning all over the place. And since we can't build on the PvE islands, that means we can't even build up defenses to try and take on these creatures in that sense. Once you've managed to defeat a Power Stone boss, you then have to find a cave, and my biggest problem right now with the caves is that all of the caves are the same. They have the same layout, the same placement of the Power Stone, and they're kind of hectic to get through in that everything spawns at the same time and tries to attack you all at once. It's really not that fun of an encounter, and the only way I've been able to successfully get a Power Stone from a Power Stone cave is by running through it naked, grabbing the stone, and then dying at the last second. I wish that there were ways to better control the spawns inside the cave so it could be more like a traditional instanced dungeon where you take on certain groups of creatures, then you move on to the next group, and so on and so forth until you and your crew make it to the Power Stone, which is the end goal in this case. But the only way I've been able to get through, as I said, is by running through, grabbing the stone, and then dying. I've been able to kill a few of the creatures one at a time, but then after that you get quickly swarmed and you have to start all over again. So to recap this point, I would like to see altered boss fights as well as rework of Power Stone Islands, maybe make them a little bit smaller so that they're not as huge, taking up as much space with as many spawns as it has. And I would also like to see a change in caves, and that the developers create more versions of caves so that we're not looking at the same type of structure every single time we go to get a Power Stone. This is the most important point to me because you really spend a lot of time preparing for killing these bosses and then going in and getting the Power Stone afterwards, and somehow it just doesn't really feel like that much of a fun mechanic because you're kind of just going in there willy-nilly. People have figured out how to drag the bosses to water, and they've also figured out how to just run through the cave naked, but somehow it just doesn't feel right. It feels like there should be some other mechanic that makes it a little bit more of a rewarding experience. Let us use all that gear that we crafted and spent a lot of time making. Let us use the weapons we have. Let us use that mythical armor set we have instead of making us take it off and run through a cave naked in order to get the Power Stone. We actually had a little bit of fun with a new way to kill the bosses on my private server. A great builder on the server, Mel, made a castle in a port town, and I spawned a dragon on it, and we ended up having an attack on the castle, and it was a lot of fun. We really enjoyed it way more than just trying to drag stuff to the water and killing it. So there are ways to make things rewarding. I just wish it were a part of the game and I didn't have to create the scenario. Number 2, give us better NPCs. This point ties in a little bit with the live stream that the devs did earlier in the summer, stating that they wanted to make content a little bit more focused around the sea. Giving us better NPCs might help with that, because by making them more useful on land, we could leave them back at our bases while we then have the free time to go and spend more time out on the sea. So I think they've done a really good job with starting this process a little bit by giving us accordions. I know you take them with you when you go out on the sea, but that's beyond the point. What I would like to see is NPCs that will actually gather for us so that our time can be freed up to go do other things. I know a huge part of survival games is collecting and gathering resources, but I think Atlas could be a very unique game in that we could have NPCs that do it for us once we've, allowed them to hit a certain level or given them a certain NPC collecting tool or even just a hatchet or a pickaxe. I've tried out a lot of combat scenarios with my NPCs, and I found that they can be pretty useful if you throw a sword on them, but if you try and add too much armor or a heavy shield, they can't really move and become useless. So I think that could use with a little bit of tweaking. I've also noticed that their AI can be a little bit interesting when it comes to what they attack and how they attack things. I think the basis of a really good system is already there, it just needs a little bit of expanding upon, and I think it could add a lot to the game as far as allowing us to have more free time to go out on the ocean like the developers want, whereas right now, a lot of our time is spent collecting resources on the islands that we inhabit. I'd also like to see NPCs become a little bit more useful in battle as opposed to the tames that we have. Now, I'm kind of calling the NPCs and tames because you tame the tames, whereas you hire the NPCs. So I look at them as two completely different things. But I would like for them to be more of like a crew instead of just an individual NPC that really can't carry his weight beyond shifting the sails or firing a cannon. I'm hoping the time of the NPC will be soon and we'll get to see what the developers have planned in future updates. More things like the accordion, maybe more stuff we can give our NPCs. Really looking forward to that and hoping that this system will be expanded upon in the future. Number 3, better building. Atlas already has a pretty good building system, but it's not the system that really bothers me, it's the lack of options we have when it does come to building pieces and how we can place everything together. For a game that's so immersive with its islands and oceans and waters, I think there should be a way for us to make structures that are just a little bit more unique, and I think a way to do that would be adding more types of building pieces that we can use not only in our buildings but on our ships as well. Different types of woods, different types of stones, some more options as far as building roofs go, because right now I feel like it's kind of limited as to what you can build with the roofs, or everything ends up looking kind of the same. I love that we can paint our buildings, but I'm talking more about texture here or type of material so that the model looks physically different, not just the color. I think there are a lot of textures or building pieces that could be added to make the game more piratey when it comes to building and not just like some basic building, as the building pieces we have now could fit into any time period really. I'm actually pretty surprised that we don't already have some more options open to us when it comes to the building kits in Atlas, because there are places on the map that already have varied looking buildings, like for instance these stone pillars or this different kind of wood that's on the dock. If these things are already used in the dev kit, how hard would it be to add them to our building kits as players? People are playing Atlas for a variety of reasons right now. There's the PvP aspect, there's the PvE and the boss fights and just exploring the world in general, and then there are those of us who really enjoy building worlds and making an immersive pirate paradise to put on our islands and on the map. I feel like we're able to build, but we're not able to completely customize and make it exactly how we'd like to see it, and I think that is something that could make Atlas unique compared to the other survival games if they could add a little bit more flair to the building system. And luckily enough for players like me who like to do that, there are mods out there right now that are helping us to put a little bit more life into our worlds, like the Eco RP Decor mod. I absolutely love it, and it can transform a build from kind of boring, borderline not piratey at all, into something with a little bit more oomph, like this little tiki porch area I built here earlier. And of course, the few problems with mods are that the creators may not always update the mods for the foreseeable future, and you cannot use mods on official servers. So I would hope that at some point the developers will add a little bit more of a pirate flair into their game so that those of us who do want to build in this pretty cool map that we have here on Atlas can do so in a true pirate way. Number 4 on my list is more ship options. The shipbuilding and customization is probably my favorite thing about Atlas, and I really think it's a strong point in the game, and I think it should be amplified. I think we should be able to have more types of ships. I think the ways that we can change our ships should be a little bit more varied than what we currently have. Right now, the base of every ship is the same. You put the planks on, and then from there you choose your mast, you choose how you want to have your upper deck, you build it up the way you want it. But I think maybe we should have a little bit more variation when we're putting planks on, maybe different types of planks. And I don't just mean quality of planks, because yes, I know that you can make upgraded types of planks like Masterwork or Legendary, but I'm talking more about like the type of wood should make a difference. Maybe it should look a little bit different. There could be some cool etchings and designs on some ships that other ships don't have, kind of like how they do the figurehead system right now, but with all of the wood on the whole ship. I know that the developers are focused on adding new types of ships, which I think is really important since this is a pirate and sailing game, and you know, a huge aspect of being a pirate and sailing is having a ship that fits you as a captain. So I think the more options they give us as far as ship customization goes, the better. And I am happy to say that I think this is the direction they're moving in, as we've seen an addition to the Freeport shops with the new types of sails we can use, as well as some of the new figureheads and steering wheels. The crab one is kind of interesting, and I'm all for that. Anything that gives us more of a way to give our ship a personality as a captain, I'm all for it. Another thing I wanted to mention about ships is that when you are creating the cabin up top, sometimes all of the pieces don't match very well with the back of the ship depending on what size of ship it is. I really think it would be nice if maybe the pieces could be made to fit and snap a little bit better to the hulls or the skeleton of the ship. I know it's a small gripe, but in the grand scheme of things, a game that's about pirates and sailing should have a perfected ship system, so I think that would help bring that about a little bit. And last but not least, I would like to see an improved story. So we have this world that we are living in on a huge map in Atlas, and we know some things about it from finding explorers' notes and just exploring the world in general, but I think that the world could definitely be more interactive when it comes to trying to tell us the story of this really weird world that we're on. We are pirates where there are mythical creatures and skeletons and ghost ships floating around, so I would really like to know a little bit more about that, not just through explorers' notes, but maybe through static NPCs who have dialogue, or maybe through actual collectible items that we can find and put on a shelf somewhere or stow in our bookshelves. I think immersion is really important, especially with a game like Atlas, where it could be really unique, it's just like a few steps away, and I think better storytelling could help those people who like to be in a world with stories and lore really get into Atlas for more than just the survival or PvP or PvE aspect. There really are some beautiful locations around the map, and I would love to be able to interact with them a little bit more, maybe open doors, go into shops, click on things, pick things up. So I'm hoping, fingers crossed, that the developers will add more ways for us to interact with the environment as Atlas makes its way towards full release. Now, those are the most important points to me, but I would really like to hear what you all think. What are some things that you would like to see added to Atlas before it releases as a full game and comes out of early access? Let me know in the comments section down below, and also if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing to my channel if you have not already. The link to my community Discord is also down below in the description box, so if you would like to join a group of like-minded gamers, please feel free to click it and join the server. So this is me signing off for now. As always guys, enjoy your games, and I will see you all in the next video.